Hi everyone, today we are talking about the juicy topic of going to fitness events and fitness competitions and doing it without a shirt on. This can happen on for both boys and girls. Obviously the girls wear sports bras, but the phenomenon is real. Now, the taking off a shirt and working out without a shirt is quite synonymous with the CrossFit franchise. But as more and more fitness events have more and more fitness styles, certainly amongst the hybrid community, take off, this is becoming more and more commonplace. This particular video is going to be discussing my experiences with this particular phenomenon and trying to embrace it and have a go and be confident enough. It's not always as simple as just taking off your shirt, I know that. Now we're going to discuss a few little elements to this, including the sort of practical side of it, the psychological side of it, and how someone that might have a few, body confidence issues, a lot of people do, even those that train regularly, will still be a little bit shy sometimes. We'll talk about the motives. Is it anything more than just gratuitously showing off your body in public? And then we will discuss how one might take yourself from someone who might not want to take your shirt off to someone who might want to. This particular conversation is just that. It is not a judgy thing. It is not telling you to do it one way or the other. I'm drawing on my own experiences from attending Hyrox over a number of events, going from someone who turned up at day one in a running club vest and participating like this, my experiences from this particular event, walking away from that day saying, right, I really want to be like those god bodies that are running around. I really would like to have a cracking physique, confident enough to take my top off and spend that hour and 15 minutes without my shirt on. Now, you'd think that that wouldn't be a problem for me looking at this particular picture, because I wasn't particularly overweight, underweight, whatever. It was simply a body confidence issue, an insecurity issue. When one looks in the mirror every single day, like a lot of people do, it's hard not to focus on the bits that you look at negatively, right? So for a lot of blokes, they'll look at their belly. And if you haven't got like a massively defined six-pack, the idea of taking off your shirt is a bit terrifying. And I'm not to saying that anyone can take off their shirts. They can, obviously. I'm just talking from my own experience that, you look in the mirror and you're not necessarily always happy with what you see. And you, like I say, you will focus on the teeny tiny details. And it's enough to rock your confidence and your self-esteem, and ultimately your insecurities will take over and you'll pull back into your shell like a snail's been poked in the face. So the motives for someone taking off their shirt, is it simply a practical thing? Is it a gratuitous reason to take off your shirt?
Woo! Well, that was cute.
And show the world what all your training is about? Is it because you know that there are going to be cameras there and they will take cracking pictures of you in action with your shirt off and your muscles rippling? Or is it simply down to the fact that when you run around one of these events that it's hot and you don't want to be covered in a sweat filled item of clothing like a t-shirt or a vest? The best way for me to take the next logical step forward in this conversation is to discuss this. Day one, Hyrox day one. It was the January of 2022, my very first Hyrox, and I went there in my running club vest because I just thought that that would be the most appropriate thing to wear. Now I wear these vests all the time when I'm running, and they do get, soaked. When you are at an arena, at a Hyrox event, you are inside with little ventilation, air conditioning, right? It feels warm. The second you walk in, it feels warm. And when you start exercising, you are warm almost immediately. Now, what I noticed is that, didn't really notice this straight away, but by the second run and the sleds, and most definitely by the burpees at station 4, I had sweat through that entire vest. Every part of that vest was saturated. And you suddenly start noticing it on your skin, like the coldness of the sweat in the fabric. It starts to get cold because of you running, and this starts to touch you and it like around your body, and it feels a bit gross, like when you've got wet clothes on. It feels gross, and knowing that it's your own sweat just makes you feel disgusting. Now, what I had not anticipated is that when I migrated to running shirtless, how fast your body dries. Now, it does still sweat, but because your running components are so frequent that sweat doesn't have a chance to build up, it doesn't have a chance to get sort of soaked into anything, it just dries off you. And in fact, I didn't start to get sweaty again until I'd stopped for a period of time. So there are definitely practical advantages to going without a shirt. In this moment, when I'd stood on the finish line, I had my finish line photo taken at Hyrox 22 in Manchester, I thought to myself, yep, I want to have a crack at that. I'm going to make that one of my goals. So from January at Manchester to, actually it's this one, Birmingham in October, I said I just want to get my physique to the point where I'd be confident. And it was a bit of a journey. It involved watching my food, training really hard. I touched on intermittent fasting occasionally just to drop a little bit of body fat. I increased my protein, I increased my nutrition overall, sort of vitamins and joint supps and lots of little things that all built up. I also increased my training. I was doing 100 push-ups a day as just when I got up and when I went to bed. I did lots of things, lots of little things that would increase my physique over time. And although it's not a massive change from here to here, it was enough for to tick a box in my brain saying, yeah, let's go for it this time. And it changed my mentality towards training as well. It made me train harder, it made me go more often, it made me want to be at the gym, because I knew that by the time I got back to Hyrox in October, that I knew that I'd set this as a goal. I was going to do it regardless, and so that's what I did. I trained and trained and trained. I ate well, looked after my nutrition as best I could, and by the time I got to Hyrox Birmingham, I was then able to sort of take my shirt off and run all the way around. And like I said, in the sort of the practical sides of it started to become apparent quite quickly. I wasn't getting as sweaty as I was in the vest or as in clothes or like when I'm training. It did have genuine benefits to doing it that way. Once there is a minute, maybe when you very first take your top off in a wildly public space, that you feel a little bit, it's you can't help it. If you have that sort of thing that's niggling in your brain, you know, that shyness part of your brain tries to kick in, but once it's off and once you actually get going, you forget about it. You're actually okay with it. That was step one for me. I went from showing up at the event with my vest on to, you know, turning up at Birmingham without my vest. So I then sort of became okay in that particular moment, and then went back to Hyrox Manchester the next year, and I ran twice. I actually run once in a vest for doubles, and then once in solos for myself. I took my shirt off for that one, and it became a little bit more normal. And in about 9 weeks time, 8 weeks time, I'm going to be doing Birmingham for the second time in my 6th Hyrox. So we're already fast forwarding a little bit now into the future, and I don't think I would ever do a Hyrox again with my shirt on. I just don't like that sensation of wet clothing. It's heavy, it's cold, it's gross. I just don't like it. Now, having said all that, is there any part of me that considers this? Am I motivated to take my top off for any other reason? Is there a... Yes, I'm not going to beat around the bush. There is a secondary reason. The pictures they take at Hyrox are awesome, right? They add a lot of HDR, grain and effect on the photos, and it makes you look amazing. So if you've got a little bit of muscle, it'll look amplified in their photos. So just, it's one of those things that there is this part of you that wants to show off your work, and if I had the same physique as some of these, you know, these CrossFit guys or these super hybrid athlete guys where you've got rippling muscles and six-pack for days, you know, I wouldn't hesitate. It took a lot of work for a 42-year-old to get from this to this. You know, it took a lot of effort on my part, a lot of sacrifice in terms of what I ate and what I did not eat. So it is a definite trajectory. Now, having banged on about sort of the aesthetics of it all and the practicalities of it all and maybe some of the motivations behind taking your shirt off at an event, now I'm going to talk about the sort of flip side, the sort of the guys and girls that just don't want to. Now with the people that simply just don't want to for no other reason, that they just prefer to wear their clothes. Obviously, before I started doing it, I was not suffering with like shine. That's a really funny word. It was alien to me. I think that's probably close. I hadn't done it before. It wasn't normal. In reality, if I'd taken my shirt off on this day, no one would have blinked an eye. No one would care. And that's true of any physique, right? On the day, you wear whatever the hell you like, yeah? You will soon realise that if you wear like tops and clothes and t-shirts, that they will become soaked, and it's just whether or not you can tolerate that for the event. Now, I know that quite a lot of people, when you say, well, why don't you take your shirt off for an event, you know, it's better, it's more practical, they recoil in kind of the, oh no, I don't want to get this out, I've got stretch marks, or I've got scars, or I'm a bit overweight, or I'm a bit this or that, and it soon raises to the surface a lot of the insecurities a person has about their own body. Now that's completely fine. Now if you are suffering from these types of insecurities, that's completely okay. It's completely normal, and I know for a fact what that feels like when they overwhelm the desire, if you follow me. Now, there are some people that would love to just be able to take their shirt off, but are just too insecure about themselves. Like I mentioned in the earlier part of the video, more often than not, this is amplified by your brain. When you look in a mirror, you can't help but just see the negatives in your physique, in your body. While I've been to these events and I've admired lots of the physiques that have been really well cultivated in gyms and training, you know, you see the muscly guys, muscly girls, and you know, they look fantastic. Some are wearing sports kits, some are wearing, you know, no tops on, whatever. You go into every single Hyrox event, you know, admiring boys, girls, old, young. You just can't help it. You know, it's inspirational to see what these people have achieved through their training. But one of the standout moments for me, and I think it was at the first one I went to at Manchester. I got there early before my wave, and I went up to the barrier and I just watched the doubles going round, right? And now these two rather large gentlemen, and they were pretty big dudes, were obviously doing mixed men's together, and they came running by, and they both had a shirt on, right? And I carried on watching, and you know, you can't help just drift between the stations. And it was probably about 10 minutes later they came back round the running section on the outside, and neither of them had a shirt on, right? So they had this epiphany halfway round their Hyrox, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. Take your shirt off halfway round, throw it out, whatever. So these two dudes were big. They not only had they shown up to a Hyrox event and were taking part, they had the absolute stones to just whip it off and get it out and crack on with what they were there to do. So while it's maybe easier for the guys with the great physiques, sometimes it just goes to show that you don't need to have any of that. Any physique, whether you be slim or tall or big, it doesn't matter. It's just about getting the job done that you're there to do. And I think that for me, it really just it set the tone. It was like, yeah, if those guys can do it, surely I can do it. And all these little things were in my head as I went from this Hyrox in January to this Hyrox in October. Yeah, these were the little things like, if they can do it, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. To doing it. I hate the idea of wearing clothes at a Hyrox event now. It's so muggy and warm, and it feels like there's no oxygen in the arenas half the time, as well as then exercising in zone 5 for what feels like an eternity. I like to go into it practically, right? So I'll have my shorts on, my running shorts, I'll have a headband so the sweat doesn't go in my eyes, and I'll have another sweatband on my wrist, simply to mop up what's left, you know, on those few occasions, because you still sweat quite a lot on your face. you can't get away from that. But so I every single time it's practical. Every choice I make is practical. And then you have the bonus. The cherry on the cake is the photography of the day. Like I mentioned, they're fantastic. And now I have a great track record of my physique over the course of the 3 years that I've been doing this sport. So we've covered the motives of why people might choose to take their shirts off at a fitness event, and why some people just might not. Some people just don't want to. Some people have issues with their physique and they don't want to show those off, a little bit embarrassed, shy, whatever, however you want to show. Some people overcome that shyness, like I did, to take the plunge and have a go, and make your mind up for yourself. I personally believe it. If you make that jump, you soon realise that no one cares. The only person that cares is yourself. There is no judgment from anyone there. No one cares about your choice on the day. If you choose to wear some clothes, tops, sports bra, a woolly jumper, a bloody dinosaur outfit, a fireman's uniform, all of these things are choices that are yours to make. Now, if you then decide that, you know, I've worked extraordinarily hard on my training this year. My diet has been on point. I'm the leanest and most in shape I have ever been. Then this is a great opportunity to document that at an event. The photos will be taken, you can buy them, and you can stick them all over social media. Well, that's what I did. I was so chuffed with how the photos came out. When I actually first saw my picture at one of these events, I had to double check it was me, because the perception of you in your own head versus what is actually true are two very separate things sometimes. So yeah, and then there are the people that are super mega confident, more often than not have social media followings. It's an opportunity to grab some content, and these guys proper, you know, they get waxed, they get tanned, they get everything done so that when they show up at this event, they look like absolute badasses. And they are, you know, these are the guys that inspired me to have a go. And I'm probably, if just one person that watches this video is, you know, it gives you enough motivation to step up and just have an experiment. It is such a nice feeling once you get past the fear. It's like a cliff jump. Like if you jump off a high thing into water, the fear at the top is more crippling than the falling and the hitting the water. Once you've done it once, it feels great. Okay, so we've established that there are all these various stages, but ultimately it's everyone's choice. And I think I just wanted to have a nice little chat about the entire thing, just for the sake of it, because it's one of my main motivators to sort of watch my food. You never know, it might rub off on one of you guys. So thank you for watching this video. I will see you at the next Hyrox event. Pretty sure I'll see some of you. Say hello if you do see me. Please give the channel a subscribe, and I will see you soon. Alright, Mart out.